Okay. Hey, everyone. This is your host, Ryan Reed, and it is late. We are doing a podcast because we didn't have enough energy to do it yesterday,
Yep.
and we are doing a test. So,
Also stuck at a church until PM.
yeah,
It's the worst.
because that makes sense. Also, I'm curious, why did
Leave. Move that a little bit higher.
yeah, let's not worry about that right now.
Okay, yeah. Do that later.
Let's do the
Okay.
audio
Do
stuff
the
first.
test. Do.
Um Why did they have you stay that late for a for callbacks for a non-part, like non anybody part?
Well, so we had dance callbacks first, and that was until 6 p.m. And then I was called back for three people, and they were kind of like interwoven throughout the entire thing. And I was also part of like the very last group of callbacks, and they were running so behind. Nobody really knows why. I asked around, and everyone's like, "I don't know what's really taking them so long." I'm like, okay, because whenever we would go do the callbacks, when we did it, it was really fast. Like all the guy callbacks were super quick, at least the ones that I was a part of. And then for everything else, they just took years on. It was the weirdest thing. I don't
Hmm.
even understand it.
So it's not a good sign, considering the fact that you have double the amount of people that wanted to be a part of this one,
Yeah,
as opposed to Guys and
it's
Dolls.
gonna be insane.
That is an indicator of their organization level, and that continues. You're gonna have a nightmare.
Hopefully, I'll just wake up in the very end and it'll all just be normal and great.
We'll see. What?
Is there some weird like odd?
What?
Why do I sound like a demon? Wait, now it's normal.
I know. What in the world was that?
What in the world? Maybe that's actually how I sounded. It's just my voice. Like, what is that? What's weird is like the quality sounds really good too. And so it's just like a voice modulator. All right. Well, it seems like it's normal for the most part. Well, yeah. You know what it could have been? Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay, I'm gonna do analysis. So three in 3 seconds, you're gonna need to talk.
All right.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Alrighty, I'm talking right now. There are words coming out of my mouth. Okay, yes. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Alrighty.
Okay, let me see. Okay, now you gotta say something with the actual level.
Okay. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Test, test, test. Testing 1, 2, 3.
All right, listen to it. See how it sounds.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Test, test, test. Testing 1, 2, 3.
That's good.
Great.
Mine doesn't do that.
I'm like one of those people who are like have like ski masks and glasses on, or like, this is how you run away from the CIA.
I'm from Hackers Anonymous.
Exactly.
Mom, shut up! I'm on the phone.
Oh no, I don't want chicken with my mac and cheese. God.
Okay, so now I'm going to adjust the camera.
Gotta see the top of our heads. Top of our head. Look at the top of his head. Get it? Please swipe card to complete transaction. No. He's up transacting in their card right now. that looking? Good. Yeah. I mean, we don't really need to see like above our heads. I think I can probably turn it down. Ooh, little. Hot.
Yep, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, let's do a quick audio test with our normal intro.
Normal intro.
Well, somewhat normal intro, but just so we can get like a regular voice that we'll normally be using.
Yeah.
And make sure, double check, triple check that
Yep.
we don't have reverberation issues like we did last time.
All right, perfect.
Okay, so hey everyone, welcome to Theta Waves Audio Test.
Oh, yeah.
We are the infamous audio test portion of our podcast that seems to take forever for no reason at all, because something new pops up every time.
Every time.
So, Jacob, about how long have we been dealing with this?
Well, I would say we've been dealing with this since about maybe 10, 20, around 10, 20
So
p.m.
about 2 hours.
Yeah, around 2 hours. It's kind of interesting because when you look at, the Theta Wave Live on our channel, it's like, wow, 5-hour podcast, 6-hour podcast. That's a lot of incredible
Nope.
information.
3 hours of that you can be pretty dang sure is audio tests at least.
It's all audio tests. But, still a lot of good information, just not 6 hours long. But we'll get there to the point to where we can do 6 hours because we just pop it out
It's
of the van.
really okay. Here's the thing. It's really a combination of the fact that we're doing this over Wi-Fi, and we've got a lot of different devices that are handling different portions of it, and so
Yeah.
it's kind of really like disconnected, almost like hodge or um, almost like jumbled as far as the. It's not, but like there's a lot of points of failure in the system, like things that can go wrong, and then it's also a large part of it is the environment that we're recording in right now is not optimal for recording this kind of audio, because when it's got wooden floors and wooden walls and a lot of hard surfaces for noise to reflect, and which normally wouldn't be a problem with one mic, but since we have two mics, that means there's it's that much easier for things like crossover, where my voice enters his microphone, and it's very, very hard to get rid of consistently. And so until we're in a space where we can actually control the flooring material and like set up some studio foam and whatnot,
We got to make
it's gonna
sure.
be very difficult.
Got to make sure when we get a house, at least one of the rooms has carpet in it.
Yeah.
Or maybe we just get a really big rug. That as well. So
That the house that we were looking at, that one had carpeted rooms, right? right?
It. I'm pretty sure that it was hard floor.
No, it had hard floor, but I think upstairs the room is
It.
no.
I'm pretty sure they didn't.
Okay.
Just one of the things was like, is a little bit echoey, but I'm sure we can make do. But
That's
someone
what
bought it.
carpets are made for. What?
Someone bought it.
No,
I know. I was like, dude, are you kidding me? Just wait like another month, please. Maybe they'll like it and just like be like, no, I'm not gonna live here anymore. Hopefully, we can like go there and just like be like, hey, leave, please, and they'll be like, okay, here you go, and we'll still pay for your rent. We're like, thank you. We'll move in and it'll be great.
Yeah, I don't
That's
see
what's
that
gonna
happening,
happen.
but oh well.
All right, let's listen to this.
Probably before we started doing it.
It sounds really good when you're like here, but like if you move at all, it's just like vroom, nothing.
This is why we do them.
Yep.
Okay, well, it looks like we've got to do some more extended audio tests on my voice because for some reason my voice was fluctuating in and out. If I
Yes.
moved positions,
At all.
it did not like that very much.
Not at all.
Oh, testing, 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 testing,
Testing.
testing.
Test.
Doing it again.
Yeah.
I wonder if it has to do with. Let's try this again. Testing, 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 testing. Testing, 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 testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, testing. Making sure that you guys can still hear me, even if my face isn't pointed directly at my microphone. Still doing it. Turn up my gain. Testing, 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 testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Let's see.
One and two and one and two and one and two and three. A 1 and 2 and
Uh,
1 and 2 and 1
uh.
and 2 and 3. 1, a 2, a 1 and 3.
And let's see if there's any echo from my microphone. Bam, bam, bam. What's up? Puh.
Whoa, go back. Mine was not coming in. It's so quiet. Turn my volume up too. Testing, 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 testing.
So weird. It's like you can't even hear you now unless you're like.
Let me do a voice match again on my voice. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 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 1 2 3. 1 2 and 3. Testing 1 2 and 3. A 1 a 2 a 3. A 1 a 2 a 1 a 2 a 3.
It's like getting like
It's like a very narrow
so weird.
field of
Because in the previous ones, it was like a very not narrow field of hearing.
Try turning off these auto levels. All right, this is gonna require you to talk probably too to make sure that nothing goes super wonky. But I'm gonna go over here. Go over here. Talk, talk, talk.
I'm gonna talk, talking right now. Yes. What a do?
The fuck?
The helly, man. I'm going to.
I just want to do a podcast.
I just want to talk about interesting and fascinating neuroscience. I want people to be able to hear our conversations.
Testing 1 2 3. Okay, mine's way too loud now.
But maybe it's not.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Is there something weird going on back here? Testing 1 2 3. Okay, mine's way too. But maybe it's testing 1 2 3.
That sounded
Testing 1 2 3.
better, but there definitely was echo.
Try both testing. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Test. Oh, said it.
Hang on a second. I'm just going to turn off these gates here to make sure that they're not causing any problems.
I feel like it was.
Okay, testing now. Now.
We are testing.
Over here. Over here. Over here.
I think it was.
Okay, testing now. 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 Testing here. Here. Here.
I mean, it was definitely better.
Like, I mean, I couldn't see when I was talking, so. And since you
Sorry.
stopped talking, our voices sound
I know.
the same. Okay, testing now. Now. What the audio's off. Yeah, that's better. That's better. That's a lot better. But the audio does seem off. Let's do a lip check by saying Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers.
If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled pepper, how many pickled pepper did Peter Piper pick?
Hmm. That that was on. Your lips are on.
Yeah. What's the move?
We are getting some serious echo though.
Yeah.
So let me. We just try turning this overarching compressor off and just so we don't have one more thing that it could be causing a problem. Betty Butter bought a bit of butter. What's the Betty Butter? If I put this bit of butter in my batter, it'll make my batter bitter. So Betty bought a bit of butter and made her batter better. Thank you. There still seems to be a little bit of dropping out. Not too much. Yeah. Batter, it looks like. Okay, let's see here. I think I might know the culprit. Think, if I'm not mistaken, it is because this threshold thing that I've got going on is reducing my audio volume when it doesn't hit the threshold, and I'm not hitting the threshold when I'm right here.
Oh, I see.
So likely reduce this slightly in my mic. It will to fix that. Okay, I'm just reducing it by 2 points just to see if this is any better at all. Maybe, perhaps, who knows? because I wasn't aimed at. Yep.
Found the
Down
problem.
down one more point. And we'll do another test. This is Ryan's mic. This is Ryan's mic. Ryan doesn't own mic. He just has one. Still reducing it. Some. I think if I honestly, let me watch this. What happens here when? Hmm. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing you and me. Hmm. Let's try this. Testing. Testing. This is Ryan. Who's that girl? It's Jess. Sounds really good.
Yes, it stopped doing that like dropping thing. It's like
Mhm.
consistent now. Oh, beautiful.
But we do need to test with
Yes.
unfortunately with you talking
Yep.
because I have a feeling
It's gonna mess up my microphone. It's totally.
well it's gonna mess up your
Oh.
reflections being canceled out.
I hope not. Hello, testing 1, 2, 3. This is probably gonna be the volume in which I'm gonna talk for the whole night. So I'm gonna continue to talk like this. Talk, talk, talk. Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3.
I don't hear the reflections.
Hold on. Let me go back a second. Here. There's a little bit when it's like this transition between when me and you talk. Unless I made that up. I don't. Okay. That. Yeah. That's.
Let's plug your I think we have a adapter over here with a headphone. Let's plug it in your phone so that we can hear it with headphones.
Oh, perfect. Yep. For. I need a lightning adapter as well. little bed for you. Yes, for you. Let me get it. Actually, you need to go lay down somewhere else so we have more padding. Bum, 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 bum. Yeah. What would be a cool color rug?
That is not something I would know off the top of my head. I typically judge rugs based off of what I see when I'm looking at them. Like I don't think of rug that I'm like just, oh, you know what would be a great rug? This color and this
I don't
pattern.
know. That's what I think about all the time. Rugs. It can be cool to have like a purple-ish rug, but
Gross. I cannot believe. I would have to see the color of purple you're talking about, but I'm having a hard time envisioning a purple rug that does not make me want to puke.
yeah, doesn't really match the vibe we want to go for.
I'm just gonna listen to it on my
Sounds good.
computer.
That'd be great. If you didn't know, fun little fact checked. Time is 12:33 a.m.
Okay, let's do another test
Sounds good.
real fast, just so that I don't have to
Mhm.
like find where we were.
Sounds good.
Testing. Hello and welcome to Theta Wave. Welcome to Theta Wave's audio test.
Hello and welcome.
If you've ever wanted to listen to a ridiculously long, extensive audio test, this is the podcast for you.
Yes, learned the ins and outs of everything it takes to do things in a not optimal environment. Through grit, sheer will. Thing 1, 2, 3. Test. Wait, hold on.
What is that going on in there? Okay, let's do another one.
All right, sounds good.
I repositioned my microphone, hoping that it just reduces some of
Sounds good.
the reflections happening. Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Testing.
Jacob.
Ryan.
You and me.
It seems like it's that back and forth, and both of us are kind of going quick back and forth. Say that twice, Jinx. That causes problems. What it seems like. Can't do that quick.
Okay, let's test it now. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing,
Testing.
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 No.
Yes.
Testing.
No. Testing.
Distingular?
Testicularing.
Testing.
What I'm about to start doing. Maybe that'll work instead of this test. Perhaps. Test. This.
You're gonna need to speak louder because you
Test.
speak louder when you're talking.
That is very true. Test. 1, 2, 3.
Testing. 1, 2,
Test.
3.
Test. 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 Love test. Oh, wait.
You need to go further back so you can hear me. I need to angle this more towards my mouth.
Yeah.
It's difficult to get it like
Perfect.
angled properly and so that it's like facing my mouth, but it's not in the way of me like actually viewing my computer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Testing 1, testing 2, testing 3. There's a wasp on the wall.
God. Where's the wasp?
Another wasp.
Why do they keep getting in?
I don't know.
These.
How do the wasps get in? Sounds good. There's not reflection going on.
Yeah.
Probably turn down the gate just a tad. All right, testing vocal tonality. 1, 2, 3. Tonality test. You'll know when you gotta get that tonality right. Get them tonalities.
Get the tonalities. Ugh.
It's about the tonalities, you know. Yours was more of a Italian accent.
Yeah.
Like almost like an Italian, really overblown Italian New York. Mine was like a New York mob. Actually, very robust, like spaghetti Italian man.
There's a pizza.
The pizza.
Pizzeria.
Welcome to Rigatoni Pizza. Free fly, flow, la vista. Cum laude, cum la vista. Oh no, Una la vista, any, many, decimany, who are many, testimony, salamany, ooh, ah. One thing I don't get is why there is some static on our voice. Testing, testing. Oh no, una la vista. Any, many, decimany, ooh, ah, many, decimany, salamany, Jacob. It's time.
I'm gonna pull out the Zens. You want one? Ooh, ay, not whistle. Yeah.
Still sounds like there's some weird refreshing going on.
Very strange. Very strange indeed. Perhaps we should make make our audio submit to our strength.
The strength of the motherland. The strength of the fatherland.
The family land. We shall make it our child. Start a heritage. Free mothers and fathers. The family land.
Back it up a little bit, because I need to be able to hear my voice.
Well,
In contrast. Hear anything?
yeah, I know.
Okay. No, dos. 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3. You and me. We're
I'm
gonna
running out of words to say. Testing Ryan's mic.
Am I like stealing your volume or something?
talking very loud?
It's like, well, here's the thing. You're talking very normally, and then like there's like, specific times where you talk the exact same, but then it like picks it up, and it's like, you sound like normally in my like
Yeah.
range
Um,
of volume.
testing. Welcome to the podcast that will never happen.
Will happen.
Now now when I'm at that volume, it's working.
Somebody's got to shout the whole time.
Well, I do. I don't think that would behoove your situation. I can also turn up my gain a tad. Let me try that. See if that makes it a tad bit more consistent. We shall see. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Is it loud enough? Better. You want to talk and make sure that it's sounding better with yours in the mix too. With his mouth. Use your words. Did you clean up your room? Your volume go.
Now I can't hear my microphone at all.
I know yours is gone completely.
What the heck? I'm. Hello. Test, test, test. Still here. Not there. When I'm back.
Okay, now that we're both
Okay.
both our mics are working, hopefully we can actually get a test in where we can compare them,
Yes. Compare and contrast.
compare and contrast.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna talk normally. Talk normal sounding. Okay.
Interesting.
Yes. Very fascinating. I will say.
I'm fast. Yes.
Yes.
Fascinating. Please tell me more.
So much curiosity. I'm speaking so many interesting facts right now that your mind is just blown.
I need you to give me a second to absorb them.
Okay. One. To absorb them.
What? Test. Wait, don't say anything. Yours sounds fine. Mine it still seems like it's needs more oomph. More oomph. Can I get some more oomph? God damn it.
Yeah.
Did you turn it down or something? You sure? Because we missed that test completely.
I was hoping you turned your gain up.
Audio's gone now. Both of our audios were gone. In the world? What could be causing that?
It's randomly cutting out.
Let me just try closing my connection to my remote desktop and seeing if that helps fix anything, because it could be the multiple connections. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. Ryan's mic. Testing. Even though there's a train blowing its whistle in the background. That sounds great. What happened?
I'm not really sure.
It was just the shared resources like devoted to my connecting to my computer and
Yeah. Okay, wait. Not talk extensively. Maybe see it.
let me turn this down first. Did you hear your voice?
Did it do it again?
It did it again.
You know what? I sound.
Okay. Testing 1, 2, 3. Jacob, I'm. What the crap is that noise? About to the point where I'm ready to murder something very.
That wasp. Gotta let her anger out at it.
Yeah. What's on the ceiling?
I don't really want to anger it.
Well, don't really want to anger me.
Which one's more dangerous? I think probably you.
Depends on whether I not have a shoe.
Mm.
If I have a shoe, I'm pretty dangerous. Otherwise, I might run screaming. All right, now you gotta talk.
Okay,
Say
I'm
something.
gonna
something.
say something. I'm giving up on you. Giving up.
Don't give up on me.
I'm not. Never
I'm
back.
worth it. I promise.
Never back down. Never what? Never give up. That's right.
That's so weird. I don't remember saying that. That is a weird phenomenon. I don't remember finishing that sentence for you.
Uh.
Okay. Probably need to back it up a little bit. Sounds pretty good. Like pretty consistent. We're not talking in a consistent volume.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think I feel like I got into it and just like started talking at normal volumes.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is good. We're gonna get right now. I have to figure out what. Eventually, what's going on? I just want that's easy.
I know. Would you be down for doing like a 45-minute to an hour free flow today, and then on Friday I do the endocannabinoid system? Just because of my mental levels, it's like I'm.
Yeah, you said on Friday
Yeah.
doing the endocannabinoid.
Yes, definitely
Okay.
on Friday.
Yeah, we can do that.
I'll just leave everything here if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Plus, it'll give me time to work on the mics.
Mm-hmm.
Like if might have to get somebody else in here to sit at the mics and help me, but like at least I'll have both of them here so I can. Okay, so with that in mind, what we are going to do now is we are going to go to our starting soon screen. Then I will I will have you okay?
Yeah, I'm doing breathing exercise to get my energy up. 2 quick breaths and let it out. It's supposed to like be more awake.
All right, we'll be back. All right, we are live.
Sweet.
Hey everyone, welcome to Theta Wave podcast. It is another late night session,
That's for sure.
and we are not going to be doing a full podcast tonight because of all the audio issues that we ran into.
So many.
We're trying to do a bit of, we're going to do a bit of work between now and Friday when we do our actual podcast that we were intending to do tonight. I'm going to do a little bit of work on trying to get some of that stuff smoothed out so we can get going earlier. And but for tonight, so that we can say we did something
hmm Yeah.
rather than just fix audio issues, we are going to do a little bit of a free flow section.
Yep.
And we're going to be talking about some interesting
for
stuff
sure.
that I came across recently, and it's from from what I've got, what I actually gathered. So that video that you sent to me, that I still need to take a look at.
Oh yeah.
But the video that you sent to me a while ago on the device that could
The
create,
computer.
yeah. So that was that. Is my understanding one of your comments correctly that that is related to the same person that is behind the research here?
So it was Pascal or um the I'm pretty sure they were different laboratories.
Okay.
The computer was created by Lee Cronin, who is was not working in this particular field. I was mentioning Michael Levin's work in xenobots, which is where they strip cells of their DNA and see how baseline cells interact, which was pretty interesting. It's quite complicated, so I haven't fully delved into that in particular, but it definitely does relate a lot to Sergio Pasca's research into stem cells and turning them into assembloids,
Yeah.
which was the video you sent me, which was
Yes.
very interesting.
And you know what's kind of interesting as far as the I guess maybe the hook of this topic is that in order to do this, had to create a new way of creating stem cells, or a different way of creating stem cells,
Yeah.
because of, I'm assuming because of a lot of the ethical controversy surrounding stem cell usage and
Yeah.
gathering and whatnot.
So it's gathered by human embryos.
Right.
So it's
Right,
like,
which I'm sure the majority of people know. But so they created it by finding a way to turn any cell back, basically back in time to its original state,
yeah,
which is so cool.
it really
Like,
is.
what the crap? Like, you can reset a cell like it's a stick of RAM.
Mhm.
Like,
It it is very interesting. I don't actually understand really the process by which they do that, because that's been a major hurdle definitely for a lot of scientists. I mean, it's kind of like one of the biggest things is when it comes to like restoring health and is creating new organs that don't have to be harvested from like actual humans, and being able to as well as reverse aging and disease. And one of the ways, the most prominent and best ways to do that was through reversing cells to their optimal state. Or, oh my God,
mother lover. Hang on.
we got a wasp. God. Nice. You got it? Oh, hell yeah. Good stuff.
All right. We've been trying to get that guy all night.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Yeah. Okay. Finally, God, that thing has been flying around
I know.
forever. Oh my god.
This is why I hate summer.
Hmm.
All the spider webs, wasps.
They always figure out a way to get in here.
They always figure out a way to get in anywhere they want to get in.
It's like, oh, this place looks nice. I'm gonna settle in here. Nope, you're
Oh,
dying.
this looks nice.
Very, very nice indeed. Yeah.
Like insert
Hmm.
some sort of politically fueled
Yeah.
immigration joke here.
Yes. Well, okay. So back to the research. My understanding of it is that they took stem cells and gave them instructive signals to then start the propagation towards self-organization, and then they pretty much formed to create like brain region specific organoids that actually resemble different parts of the brain. And I know they do these in cell cultures, but I know that I'm not necessarily sure where they are in this, but actually integrating these neural mechanisms that are human into animals.
So, the stem cell technique that's used to revert cells back to their original state apparently is 20 years old.
Okay.
I'm not sure why it's hasn't there hasn't been anything done with it for
Yeah.
20 years, if that's 20 years old. Maybe there was like some sort of technology improvement that made it more feasible to do on a larger
Yeah.
scale or something like that. But the technique itself is apparently 20 years old.
Okay.
But one of the things that they've been doing with that kind of research and the new capabilities, from, or I guess the not new, but the capabilities that stemmed from that, that research, is that organoid and assembloid, construction, which essentially are three-dimensional cultures of cells that resemble like an organ or a part of the brain, like a neural structure,
Hmm.
um, and but aren't full replicas,
Yeah.
obviously. Um, the what this kind of allows them essentially to do, and the reason why it's actually one of the really interesting things, the reason why it's possible, is because these things are self-organizing.
Yeah.
Like, they will program, essentially, kind of given a situation, like they'll program themselves to be the and organize themselves to be the structures that we already have.
Yeah.
Like, which is fascinating because that, that means there's like there's a an element of almost structural integrity that is like, it's not just like a I guess it's just a more tangible version of uh, visualization of like DNA,
Hmm.
like the base,
Yeah.
instructions, so to speak, and um, fact that those things are able to, without any overarching organism, to encourage them to do that,
Yeah.
are able to self-organize and do that no matter what.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you can put a stem cell anywhere in the body and it'll integrate into what it's supposed to do functionally with the rest of the group. And so it's very similar in this state where you have obviously the same DNA that you do in any stem cell, and you put it in the right environment, you put a lot of these in the right environment, and so they start to do this same thing that stem cells do naturally in the body, just uh, in cell cultures,
Yeah.
which is very interesting. And I would actually be curious to look at the technique and why it's taken 20 years for us to actually get somewhere with this, and if it's just like a funding thing, if maybe there was like like you said, a technical hurdle, but
What was the I know that he said that that initially it took them, I think I'm quoting this correctly or conveying this correctly. I think in the video that I watched on this, there was a point in it when he mentioned that it took um a year or two to get from or to get to two-dimensional
3.
assembloids, and then 5 years to get from two-dimensional to 3D.
Oh wow, so this
So it gets gradually more and more
Mhm.
complex the more dimensions that they add.
I mean, I guess that makes sense. It's like drawing a map of something versus actually 3D modeling that environment.
Mhm.
That's just so vastly different, because cells, they follow, I think he said this, they follow a blueprint. And so if you give it the right blueprint, it's going to follow those instructions to a T perfectly. And so I think at this point, when they've kind of finally grasped that 3D modeling of the blueprint of how these structures need to be stimulated in order to get that um, specific behavior and types that they want to study, that's where it kind of blossomed at that point.
What do you mean?
The like the like cells organizing to a blueprint.
Like that's where what blossomed.
Uh, Once they got to 3D modeling, they were able to they were able to fully integrate their knowledge of how what type of blueprints specific parts of the body needs to have the right environment to create these miniature kind of mechanisms that you find,
The implications of that being what?
being that you can very much that you can create those sub miniature organs.
I'm just trying to like see how that relates to the whole speed of development. Like it took taking 5 years to get from 2 to 3, like where the
Oh no,
connection is between
sorry,
that.
sorry. I was just commenting on, oh, finally, now that they got to third dimensional, like why hasn't it been like really utilized in the past? If this technique's been around for 20 years, it's because of that hurdle from 2 to 3D modeling. Once they got to 3D modeling, they were able to actually fully comprehend the blueprints needed for the cells to organize in the way that
I don't
I
know.
understand.
I think we might be that might not be the type of dimensionality that it is. Um, I'd have to do more research into it to know for sure. But like um, it's not just like 3D, you know, finally understanding 3D dimensionality, mm, has just kind of instantly opened up the world of, of research and utilization of this technology to the point, that where, it can be applied anywhere. If it's the type of dimensionality that I'm thinking, it probably is. It's more in line um with the dimensionality that we deal with in machine learning, which usually is um like there can be 2, 3, 4, 5 dimensions like of the data, and it's just like structures within structures within structures within structures and how they all like interact and whatnot.
Hmm.
And and that would also lend itself to support like why it's taken so long and it takes longer to figure out how to integrate and connect to
Mm,
like more dimensionality, because
I see.
it does get like
at least for me, like whenever I'm dealing with um, go from 2-dimensional data to dealing with 3-dimensional data, um, 4-dimensional data, like the problems that I deal with and keeping track of like how things are connecting to each other,
I see.
like just massively like increases the more dimensions you add to it. And so I think that's probably the type of complexity that they're talking about, like structures within structures that interact with structure,
Mhm.
like this kind of really like inbuilt system. And uh and that would 100% make sense, in which case it's not going to stop at 3-dimensional.
Yeah.
It's probably
Yeah.
going to be there's probably going to be
Mhm.
4-dimensional,
More and more.
5-dimensional, like um because of just how many
Yeah.
layers within layers and structures within structures, there are in the brain.
Which
And
which honestly, yeah, that's definitely uh probably the case. That definitely clicks in my brain as well. What is really cool though is if it's going to develop like machine learning, and the more dimensions you add, the more you kind of see the clearer picture that you get from it. I wonder how that's going to translate over to our understanding of biology. And it's a very complex system. And one of the things that he mentioned was that our understanding of animal modeling is incredible. They have such good data to work with. But when it comes to actual human cell organization, especially in the brain and central nervous system, that is something that is incredibly, incredibly lacking. And this understanding of the dimensionality within these stem cells and how they organize is going to lead to such incredible clinical applications, especially for new novel drugs, which can be developed with the computer potentially. I can see that translation there. But yeah, so I'm really curious to see what new discoveries are going to be made because of
the
this.
the one of the really profound, like we were talking about earlier, but I wanted to reiterate this on the podcast. The one of the profound implications of these assembloids, and this research that's being done on these self-organizing and self-designing um, networks, is that it takes our ability to do preclinical research to a whole other level.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it's and that's been a huge hurdle for us because of the cost um of taking things from preclinical um to clinical trials, and the you know I guess results from the increased value that we place on human life as opposed to
Hmm.
rats, but and other animals. But
Exactly.
um the with more a more with these being able to use these assembloids and these structures that very closely resemble human brain structures, you now have cell cultures that can not only precisely model a network to see how things interact, how a substance interacts with that network in the cell cultures, um, but you can precisely model diseases and replicate diseases in the brain and utilize that to leverage it into
Hmm.
a cure. Um, and beyond that, now you have the ability, and this was something that they stated both in the research and the video, um, that they have the ability to take these custom designed networks that are modeled after human brains, um, and they actually have the ability to transfer them over and implant them into mice and
Yeah.
other animals,
Yeah.
which is crazy because now that means that you have the ability to test out that functionality in a biological organism and watch behavioral effects,
Hmm.
and um, and have the ability um, to model almost animal scenarios in which they have a much closer resemblance to the relevant areas of the human brain.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and so, which is interesting because it reminded me of concepts known as transfer learning and
Oh,
machine
yeah.
learning, which is basically where you take the information learned from one network or the information that a model has been um, previous model has been trained on, and you transfer it over to a new model or a new architecture
Mm-hmm.
in order to reduce the amount of time required to train it.
Yeah.
And so the kind of that concept reminded me similar of transferring like
Mm-hmm.
networks over from one thing to another. But that also made me think, will it soon be possible to do custom design biological networks for specific functions, then implant them in your own brain?
Absolutely.
Like,
I mean,
could you potentially, if once we understand the human brain enough, could we potentially in a cell culture train hippocampal neurons on information, digital information,
oh my goodness.
and then integrate it into our hippocampal network so we have, similar to the way that we train machine learning models and transfer
Yeah.
information over, you now have a way of taking digital information and coding it into biological hippocampus like neurons and then transferring those to a human brain and
Yeah.
integrating them into the network.
I mean, we've already seen with biological computers, you can train them to do specific things, and the more sophisticated that technology becomes, I can definitely see that being the case. I mean, what I see now is being able to analyze what potential neurodevelopmental problems a potential kid's going to have. Like if you're pregnant, and being able to transfer stem cells into that developing brain, because from what I understand of the research, that timing is really crucial, and it has to be like with rats, it can't really be in adult rat brains. It has to be in very young rats while they're currently developing. And so I'm not exactly sure how that's going to play out. That might be like something far into the future, but I can definitely still see that happening because it starts off with these, you have to do it when it's like primed for making new connections.
Well, I mean, all that requires is that you and this would make sense, but um, is is that you optimize your environment for the um, integration and or creation of new data and new information, which would be something you'd probably want to do anyway.
Mhm.
Like, and the and so you're making sure like your uh, BDNF, your uh, your the relevant areas of your brain um, were state of being able to um, adjust long-term potentiation
Mhm.
and making sure that your brain was capable of neurogenesis if
Yeah.
needed, um, and optimizing all of those different factors that play a part in integrating new information would be something you'd probably want to set up, do beforehand,
Mhm.
and then integrate the network
Yeah.
um, and that way your brain actually had the ability to utilize it, find a place for it.
And it's interesting that what you first said is probably going to be the biggest hurdle, because it seems like we're kind of already on the path to be able to create cells that have intelligence that we can put in actual biological organisms.
And this is kind of one of the reasons where I think for both of us, our interest in nootropics comes from
Mhm.
is the fascination with the brain's ability to rewire and adapt itself.
Yeah.
And and integrate, new information and increase its capacity and create new neurons, and like that, just the dynamics of
Yeah.
that system are very, very fascinating. And you know, with nootropics, they there is kind of an inherent inbuilt meaning to that, in the concept of nootropics. I think actually originally probably when I can remember, it was part of the definition from the creator of the name of the word
Yeah.
nootropics, but but it inherently like implies not exclusive to a disease, like
Hmm.
it's something, um, in in um, something that is both healthy for you and for healthy
Yeah.
people,
Like it increases
and
peak performance across the board
right.
for everybody.
And so while there's a really important um, there are really important diseases and dysfunctions that can be addressed through a lot of these new and emerging mechanisms. It's also interesting to consider the overall potential improvement for humanity as a whole, not just for the deficits, but
Yeah.
for um, potentially improving our ability to handle information as a species, because right now we are at a stage in our development where we have we are at kind of this peak of information technology and this information age, and we have too much information, so much so that we don't know what to do with it a
Yeah.
lot of times, and people get overwhelmed trying to process
Hmm.
information and trying to disseminate and weed through it, and we just weren't like we weren't built for that,
Hmm.
and so you see a lot of kind of societal outcroppings as a result of that, and people almost sometimes clinging even harder to certain biases or ideologies, because that's the only way for them to it's like they're caught in a fast moving current, and they're holding on, for dear life to this rock, that is keeping them somewhat grounded, um because they don't want to get lost, in the
Yeah.
current, um and so their values kind of like
Hmm.
act as that, almost like that thing that'll at least, it won't save them from the situation, but it'll keep them there,
Yeah. Yeah.
and keep them from having to deal with the tide.
I
um
don't know if you could call this an ideology. You could call it an ontology, where the idea is that the reason or the purpose for our existence is so that the universe can understand itself. And I don't think, like, in a practical sense, that is true, but I think it speaks to an actual archetype that lies within humans, is that there is this internal want and need for knowledge. It's just that level of complexity is so much that we often fall back on our more primal instincts that kind of hold us back from that knowledge seeking type behavior that is oftentimes overwhelming. I mean, I sometimes find it very overwhelming, especially when you're dealing with so many different things happening at the same time. Most people don't really want to deal with that stress because they know they can find pleasure in other things and rely on their own self satisfaction and very minimal life, which is fine if that's what you want to do. It's like, do what you want. But at the same time, there's another aspect that kind of is like knocking at the door there and saying, hey, go learn, go explore
mhm.
things, forget your biases, and just accept things as they are, and find as many new novel perspectives as possible that could lead you to a more comprehensive understanding of life. so that you can become as integrated as possible with all potential environments, which I think is a part of the reason, not a theological reason, but somewhat of a purpose for this more intelligence driven, like evolution humans have gone through, is for the purpose of knowledge and integrating that to better fit all possible environments, because we're kind of the product of what's 500 million years of cross species evolution, sorry, cross global. Oh, I forgot the exact term for it. I had it in my head just a second ago. It's where like all species, like over like hundreds of millions of years, are traveling all throughout the globe, going through all these different environments, creating different pressures that then stimulate different types of gene expressions, and that regulates itself. And over time, the final product that's becoming most successful out of all of those is the one for knowledge. And the more knowledge you have, the better you can situate yourself in all possible environments. And then beyond that, we go to an interplanetary kind of environment. And beyond that, and
Did you ever watch uh the original Spider-Man movies
yeah,
with Tobey
yeah,
Maguire?
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Do you remember the line? There's a line in there by Norman Osborn. Uh, that goes something like 5 million years, and we've barely tapped the vastness of human potential.
Yes. Yep. And it's crazy because it's absolutely true. Sometimes we like to kind of sit back in our ego and be like, wow, we're the peak of all evolution, and we're the best. And it's like the but it's really truly only the beginning, and we barely tapped it, and we're actually fundamentally holding ourselves back
Mm,
from it. There is so much untapped potential because everyone is too scared to even go beyond their own self-centered biases that give them some sort of that really misrepresent kind of the purpose of understanding.
mhm.
It's like they want to understand how to be comfortable instead of understanding how to find new novel things.
Well, and can you really blame them because of the culture that we live in and how hard it is to find any measure of peace
Mm,
or safety or comfortability? Like, the most people spend their day-to-day lives trying simply to survive
yeah,
and are so caught up in that, like, that they just don't have time to devote to anything else.
yeah.
And that includes information intake and dissemination, and figuring out how to properly process stuff and that comes their way, and
And they're still fully utilizing their intelligence in those particular environments
well, maybe.
to some degree.
um I mean, I would argue that when you are reusing, the more that you reuse something that you already know and you already do, um, are familiar with, less you are learning that thing,
Yeah.
and the less you are utilizing your brain as a result.
hmm
You're the less of your brain's networks you're going to utilize because you don't need to process it
Yeah.
as much. And so when people get stuck in a groove, which they often do, trying to survive day to day, they get a 9 to 5 job. They will um, work in most people will work in a job where they do something similar every single day,
Yeah.
and requires very little adaptation. Um, and in those contexts, I would say they're probably not using much of their brain.
Yeah.
They're using a lot of their time,
for sure.
maybe enough of their brain that they can't really devote to enough of their like um, conscious brain, that they can't really devote to
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
learning, something else in addition to it, but like but not enough to really stress and their brain out to build new cognitive capacities and
I mean,
connections.
I understand that. I mean, we're very nootropics centric. We love to optimize our brain for learning new things. And even at that point, if I spend an hour on something completely new and immerse myself in it because I find it fascinating, I can really, last only about an hour before I get really tired because I am so stimulated by it. And my brain is like, all right, you need a break. And so I usually take like a 30-minute nap and then I'm right back at it. But it just goes to show most people don't even have a lot of time for a 30-minute nap, if I'm being honest.
Hmm.
And so since they have such consolidated networks that are so specific to their repetition daily lives, repetition of daily lives, then that's going to make it a lot more difficult to learn things because their environment's not optimized for that. Their life isn't, and any curiosity that could spark is going to be suppressed by the very fast-paced lives that they're living
Yeah,
that don't actually involve anything novel.
yeah, and that's actually a really good point that I wanted to bring up at some point with
Mm,
nootropics is the mainly because I come across a lot of um like anecdotal reports of users saying, that they didn't feel anything from something, or like didn't something didn't do anything for them. And while there can be a lot of reasons for that kind of thing, and one thing is not most of the time one thing is not going to work for everybody, but more often than not, especially in the world of nootropics, what I have found personally is that you're not putting yourself in a position where that nootropic is needed and where the functionality you want to get from the nootropic is needed, then you're right. That nootropic is not going to do anything for you. Like in a similar way to if you want your muscle to grow, you have to exercise and you have to use it and you have to stress it out and strain it. The same thing applies to your brain. I don't care if you're taking steroids for your brain or not. You know, taking steroids may help sometimes a little bit on its own, but it's not going to provide the level of changes that you're looking for unless you also pair it with the stress and the strain part of it, because that is what sends the signal that these new networks are needed, and that there is more information coming in that has to be dealt with, and we have to increase our processing capacity. And um, so you can't expect something to just be magic for you without um, also putting in the work. To test. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's almost in a weird way kind of the reverse, where it's a substance that is driving the action of like the idea of a substance that's like driving the action that's creating the environment that is the end goal,
Mhm.
rather than having a substance that is needs a specific action to create an environment to reach your end goal.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And
like it's just a different, like, I don't know. But yes, I mean, you're right in
the
that, like, um sometimes the action in and of itself can create the end
yeah.
goal, which actually brings up another really important point, which is the importance of baseline comparisons.
Mm.
If you really want to go about your self testing, your research, um, with a methodical and mindset and accuracy as kind of the most important factor for you, then start off with baseline measurements before doing anything,
Mhm.
because your data doesn't mean anything if any change is fueled by
Yeah.
the compound changes that you made
Mhm.
while taking. So for instance, if you're performing research on um, a compound A, and in order to properly test that, you needed actions A, B, and C done. Um, the simple change in routine of doing actions A, B, and C can often cause changes themselves. So
Yeah.
you need to know
Mhm.
what those are and what that looks like beforehand, so you can essentially differentiate it from the effects and any potential improvements or not,
Mhm.
introduced through compound A.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that I mean, what I've seen when it comes to people who have very passionate pursuits in various fields, what kicked them off wasn't a particular drug or a particular um, nootropic. It was a reason to do something. And once they started doing things, that's where they found their flow and their ability to actually comprehend and utilize the resources necessary. And that was definitely for me as well. And then I started taking these new nootropics, and I noticed that I was still driven. It just added a little more extra motivation, a little bit more boost.
And yeah, that my experience with the race tams was, it did it did follow that methodology. It was accidental, but it did follow that methodology of that I was describing earlier, of the establishing a baseline first. Like,
Mm.
I actually spent several weeks, I think 2 to 3 weeks, trying to struggle through some of um, these are in my early Python years, when I was like trying to learn Python, programming language, and I was trying to teach myself, and there were things that were just like really blocking, me from kind of fully grasping, and I was getting frustrated and kind of hit these bumps um, that would take me a while to break through. Like I would eventually break through them, but they would take me a while. And um, it wasn't just like a single day of like thinking it through and then I was like, oh, I got it. Like it was sometimes several days of like struggling with the same thing over and over again. Um, and it was that was around the time too that I had the thought to order some of these nootropics again.
Yeah.
Um, and primarily because of those issues that I was facing trying to grasp this stuff. And I was like, that can only be beneficial. Like it can only help me
Yeah.
more. And so once that stuff came in, I I started trying, them out one at a time. And um I'll tell you what, like having that baseline was so helpful because it helped let me know what my typical speed of development was.
Yeah.
Like what my typical speed of learning things was, how long it would take me to grasp things, and like the my overall ability to integrate and comprehend and remember new information. Like it gave me a good amount of time to to kind of get a feel for what that is, what that was.
Yeah.
And then I introduced those on top of it, and it made those effects so much more meaningful for me and profound because I knew it wasn't just placebo and what it had to do with, and I knew the the changes that I had made, and then the effects that I was seeing because of those changes.
Yeah.
And for anyone interested in knowing the improvements I was seeing, first off, physiologically, um, the when I was in a state of high learning, and which was usually in the mornings, because I would do about 15-20 minutes of learning in the morning. Um, this was back when I was still getting up in the mornings. But the I could feel my brain tingling as the more I was using it, and like I could feel it's the processing speed begin to like you know hasten
Yeah.
and get faster and faster, and um new concepts were a little easier for me to grasp, but more so um the hurdles did not take me nearly as long to get through, and it's like I would be able to figure out I would be able to find things like out how it integrated a lot faster, and get to that aha moment much quicker, and sometimes only a single session. Like I would eventually be able to work through it and get to that aha moment. And um the other component that it majorly improved was my ability to recall and remember and integrate information. So much so that like there were actually times that in relevant areas that my memory would shock me on something. Like I would remember somebody's phone number a full 24 hours later after they told me. And I don't even remember my own phone number most times. It's like
Yeah, that was definitely one of the craziest things that I noticed when I started taking Pramiracetam was the associated benefit of just like being able to recall memories that I usually wouldn't be able to. It's like, okay, I can also learn things a lot quicker. I felt that same bubbly feeling all happening, and it was
Mhm.
probably better than anything I've ever experienced because it's like the actual conscious perception of this like network forming in your brain, and it was
these
yeah.
new neurons tingling.
Mhm.
It's almost like you have, like, it almost feels like in my brain, like you either your was numb and now it's becoming unnumb, and as the blood is flowing to it, and it's starting to tingle along the nerves, or like like new nerves are being like formed on limb, or like much more sensitive now to like things. And kind of both of those like simultaneously, but like it's weird because I never would have imagined that I could feel the never would have imagined I could feel long-term potentiation, like a physical representation of long-term potentiation. But you can, on a big enough scale, like you can feel it.
It's honestly one of those things that if you are able to feel, you're kind of on the track. And it's an incredible boost to motivation to actually feel long-term potential happening in the brain in the current.
Hmm.
It's like, goodness, what is actually happening here? I
Why am
am,
I on fire?
I know seriously, it's like y- you, it's almost as if it's like the ability to like feel you're evolving,
Hmm.
almost like it's that type of sensation. And it's different than like, I'm so awesome. It's like,
It's like,
this,
here we go.
here we
We're
go.
going.
Yeah.
Going. It's like almost like you're starting like a roller coaster, like, and it's like starting to like tip downwards, and you're
Hmm.
like, here we
Whoa,
go.
whoa,
It's
whoa.
about to get real.
Hmm. And it's really incredible when you're in there.
And I definitely noticed an increase in that after, starting my nootropics journey. And what was really cool was actually instead of just feeling it afterwards, was feeling it during, which was a strange, which
Oh
was a
yeah.
very
Oh
strange
yeah.
phenomena because the way I understood it was like, oh, you have to like rest for a little bit to let your brain consolidate and make those new connections, and then you start again.
No.
But no,
No.
actually in the moment, and it's after a while it gets really tiring because you're like, man, I just utilized all my resources, but God, that was so satisfying.
Well, once you like get to like some of those aha moments, like you can actually, it's almost like the epitome of like what reward processing is supposed
Hmm.
to be. Like, get to the aha moment, and it's like, that's what that is.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it now. I get it.
Exactly.
And like it's satisfied like your desire to understand, and your desire to like improve,
Hmm. Yeah.
and you figured it out. Now
Hmm.
being here, and we'll be back on Friday for the actual podcast. And yeah, hopefully with a lot more less technical problems. So we will see you guys then.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. And we will be covering the endocannabinoid
Endocannabinoid stuff.
system on
Hmm.
Friday,
Friday.
which should be super chill.
It's gonna be awesome. Hmm. So thanks for joining us.
they're gonna have to hang out a little bit here while I figure out how to stop us without my.
I do gotta head out.